Casio G-Shock Rangeman User's Guide. Let's start with the basics. Up here, as with almost, if not all, Casio G-Shocks ever made, you have the adjust button. Over here on the bottom left is the mode button. Again, virtually every G-Shock ever made, if not all Casio watches, have the mode button down here. Up here is the reverse button. It's also split reset for your stopwatch and countdown timer. Down here is the forward button. It's also start stop for your stopwatch, countdown timer. These two buttons, forward and reverse, are used for scrolling through selections when you have to, or changing values when you're in adjust mode and stuff. Here is the front mounted light button, turns on the illumination. And over here, this is not too common on G-Shocks. This is mostly just your sensor G-Shocks. This button takes you into the 3 sensor modes. There's altimeter, there's compass, and then there's barometer and temperature combined into a single mode. So that's it. 3 buttons on this side, 2 over here, 1 light button, front, middle. This is just, I don't think there's even a sensor in here. It's just sort of meant to convey the appearance of there being a sensor over here, but it's just a outcropping. Alright, so now looking at the display. First of all, you get a solar panel around the outside ring here. This is a dot matrix area. You got plus or minus indicators, then an indicator for barometer alarm mode. This eye is radial segments. There's 60 segments. It's used primarily for indicating compass direction, and it's also used for various things in other modes. Celsius or Fahrenheit, AM or PM indicator. This is, it's not dot matrix. What is it, 7 segment LCD, but it's used for a lot of things. Low, medium, or high, this is your battery charge indicator. Sunrise is just, when you're in sunrise sunset mode, it tells you which one is which. Daylight savings time, meters or feet. Down here you've got hectopascals or inches of mercury, depending on what units you've decided on. Down here there's a bunch of indicators. This one is for your fully automatic illumination feature. It tells you whether it's on or off. This is for button muting. This is for your hourly signal, alarm, and snooze indicator if you have the snooze alarm turned on. AM PM indicator, power saving mode, and this little stack here indicates whether you've successfully synchronized with the atomic clock time signal for that day. Yeah, it actually says it right here, RC indicator. So that's pretty much it for the display. So right now the watch is in timekeeping mode, and I'll just show you the functions that are available in timekeeping mode. You can see it got a high battery charge. This is just doing an animation. It's kind of useful because there actually are 60 segments, so 1 segment lights up or unlights per second. You can see I successfully synchronized with the atomic clock radio signal during the night. Power saving mode is, or the power saving feature is turned on. This is the time, daylight savings time is turned on. Starting with the adjust button, if you press it momentarily, you get a barometric pressure graph up here. There are 21 columns. You might be able to see this little pixel flashing here. That is the most recent measurement. It takes a measurement every 2 hours. So this goes back about 42 hours. nearly 2 days, and it's just showing the changes in barometric pressure over the course of the last 42 hours. Most recent being here, and then moving to the left takes you back in time. And if you press it again momentarily, it gives you day of week. So you can toggle between those two. Up here at the top right, if you press it momentarily, nothing happens. If you press and hold it, it records the time and the date into memory. And there's a recall mode that you can use to look at that record. Get into that later. Now the sensor button, of course, that takes you into the various sensor modes. I won't explain them now. Altimeter, compass, and here's barometric and temperature. To get out of it, you press the mode button over here on the bottom left. Takes you back into timekeeping. The bottom right button is a shortcut to the stopwatch mode, and if your stopwatch has been reset to all zeros, and only if it's all zeros, it will also start the stopwatch instantly. So there we go, there's stopwatch mode. It started at the same time. And if I go back to timekeeping mode and press it again, it just shortcuts you back to the stopwatch. It doesn't start or stop it, so it protects the stopwatch from inadvertent starting and stopping. If I stop it and reset it, then of course going back to timekeeping mode, if I press it now, it will both start the stopwatch and take me directly to the stopwatch mode. The bottom left mode button, of course, takes you through the modes: world time, stopwatch, timer, alarm, sunrise, sunset, recall mode, receive mode for the atomic multiband 6, radio controlled timekeeping, and then back to timekeeping, or home screen as some people call it. If you press and hold, like let's say you're over here in sunrise, sunset, if you want to go directly back to timekeeping mode without having to fiddle around with pressing the mode button multiple times, you can just press it and hold it, and it takes you directly back to timekeeping mode no matter what mode you're in. Because I find that if I keep pressing this multiple times, I end up going right by timekeeping mode. So this is just a easier way. Without looking, you can know for sure that you're back in timekeeping mode. Okay, so let's go into the settings and adjustments. That's controlled up here with the top left adjust button. It's a two-stage adjust. If you press it and hold it, it takes you into the first stage, and then if you press it again, it takes you into the second stage, which is where you set your latitude and longitude for the exact location where you live. Pressing it again takes you out of the adjustments. So let's go back in. You can see it's flashing here, and this is right now, this is where you change your city code. What I like about this watch is it gives you the full name of the city, makes it a little less confusing. And you can go forward and reverse. Reverse takes you westward, and forward takes you eastward. And the watch has a database of latitude and longitude values for these cities, and it automatically loads them. So it gives you the option of being able to find out what sunrise and sunset times are for other cities around the world. Or you can manually set the latitude and longitude for a different location as well. So it's important to set this for the city where you live, and only certain city codes allow the multi-band 6 atomic timekeeping to work. If you have it set for a city code that isn't on the list in the manual, your the watch will not even attempt to. The watch decides that it's out of range, and it will not attempt to do an automatic time synchronization. One thing about this is that the latitude, longitude values that it automatically loads basically override the ones that you set manually. So if I go in here, I can see that my latitude value is no longer what I had it set for, because I live in Wyoming. I live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So my latitude is a little different, and longitude is almost the same. But anyway, yeah, the values have changed. So I have to reprogram these in order to make them exact for my city, so that the sunrise sunset times will be a little bit more accurate. And I don't think it really makes that much difference with you know, if your latitude isn't, if your latitude and longitude are nearly the same, then it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. Okay. So pressing the mode button down here at the bottom. Now this is for daylight savings time. I have it set for automatic, which means that it's going to get that information from the atomic clock radio signal and automatically switch between daylight savings time and standard time. Daylight savings time, I guess, is known as summertime in other places around the world. Most countries in the world don't even use daylight savings time anymore. You can also, again, using these buttons on the right, you can turn it off permanently or turn it on permanently. So you have manual control, or you can put it to automatic, so it's controlled by the atomic clock radio signal. If you are if you have the right city code selected, which is compatible with atomic radio controlled timekeeping. Here's a 12 or 24 hour display. So now it's on 12-hour display mode. I got a PM indicator over here. Pressing the forward button, 24-hour military time. And now this is for manually adjusting your seconds. You can use the bottom right button here. It sets it to 0. Manually adjust your hours, manually adjust your minutes. I'm pressing the mode button to move from one setting to another. This is where you adjust your year. It goes from 2000 until 2099. And that the watch is also programmed as far as sunrise sunset times. It'll cover those years from 2000 to 2099. It's a full auto calendar, so it means that the watch will always have the correct date, even on leap years. It automatically adds the 29th day of February. Here you can manually adjust the month, manually adjust the day of month. Again, the two right side buttons. This is the button muting, a musical note. Pressing the forward button mutes it. And this indicator, you'll be able to see this in all modes. Lets you know so now the buttons beep, and now they're muted. This is the afterglow of the light. You can have it set for 1.5 seconds or 3 seconds. Those are the two values for the afterglow duration, which means that when you push the button, the illumination will stay lit for either 1.5 or 3 seconds. This is for power save. You can turn that on or off. It's a good idea to have it on. It just means that if the watch is in the dark between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., and it's not moving and you're not pressing any buttons, it will go into a power save mode where the display is blanked out, basically. And here's where you can change your units between, well, the 3 buttons on the right. So I can switch. Now it's set to Celsius, pressing upper right button. Now it's set to Fahrenheit for temperature. Pressing the sensor button changes from hectopascals for your barometric pressure, or inches of mercury. That's kind of a USA only thing. INHG. And the bottom right button changes between meters and feet for your altitude. So, and this is the Japanese version of the watch. So it is compatible, you know, the module is worldwide. It's not metric only. However, if you have your city code set to Tokyo, TYO, then you will not be able to change these units. You'll have Celsius, hectopascals, and meters. And you will not be able to change this if your city code is set for Tokyo. I think that's Japanese law. They have to make it that way. So since I'm in the US, I use Fahrenheit, feet, and inches of mercury, because we're backwards that way. That's it. That's all of the settings in the adjust mode. First stage. And then in the second stage, if you want to locate yourself, if you want the watch to know your precise location, then you have to program these in manually. And if you ever change the city code, it will erase this and vaporize it. It does not remember what you had these set for. Again, using the right side buttons, I think my actual latitude is 41.8 or something. I don't remember what the settings were. And that's it for the adjustments. Let's take a look at the world time mode. First mode that you come to. It gives you the 3-digit airport code, and also if you wait, it'll scroll up here and it'll show you the full name of the city. This is your current home time, and this is the world time down here. In this eye, it shows your home time flashing, and then it shows you the world time city and approximately how far off it is. So if I go backwards here, if I want to see what city is half a world away or 12 hours difference, Dhaka, Kathmandu, somewhere in there, half a world away. There's 48 cities covering 31 time zones. You can speed scroll through them. Well, I guess 0 is not UTC. There's UTC. You can also turn daylight savings time on or off by pressing and holding the adjust button. And it will activate, you see the indicator here, it'll turn it on for just that city. It doesn't affect any of the others. So it's independent and it remembers it. So you have to go and, manually shut it off. Except for UTC, you cannot turn daylight savings time on for UTC. Universal Coordinated Time, or Zulu Time, / it used to be GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. Yeah, that's all there is to world time mode. Next up is the stopwatch mode. It's a 1,000 hour stopwatch. The hours are shown up here, up to 999, 59 minutes and 59.99 seconds down here at the bottom. Start stop button is bottom right. You can stop it, and it it just stays frozen, and you can resume using the start stop button. You can also do split times. So now the stopwatch is still running in the background. It just freezes the display, and you can write that number down. If you want to do first and second place finish, you hit the split reset for first place, stop button, start stop button for second place, and then when you hit reset, it'll show you the the second place stop time. And pressing reset again sets it to 0. So it's basic stopwatch functionality, except that it's 1,000 hours, which is about 41.5 days. Of course, by that time, the watch may be, it may be 15, maybe more seconds off. So it's not real accurate once you get to that length of time. But I guess it's nice to have the extra capacity to measure longer events somewhat accurately. And yeah, that's stopwatch mode. Next we have countdown timer mode. 3 presses of the mode button down here on the bottom left takes you to the countdown timer mode. Right now it's set to all zeros, so if I press start stop, it starts counting down as if it's a 24-hour countdown. Press start stop again, stops it, and then top right button resets it. If you press and hold the adjust, you can set the hours, 1 hour, 23 hours. Pressing the mode button down here takes you to the minutes setting, 59 minutes. And pressing the mode button again takes you back to hours. So you can't set the seconds. You can only set the hours and minutes. So there's a 1 minute countdown right there. There's nothing fancy to it. It doesn't have a progress beeper or auto repeat. So when it gets to 0, the alarm sounds for 10 seconds. And you get a little animation here. And then it automatically restores the original setting that you had the countdown timer set for. So it's ready to go again. But there is no auto repeat option, and there's no progress beeper. So it's pretty basic countdown timer. Next up is alarm mode. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you're in alarm mode, pressing the bottom right button, the forward button, start stop button, takes you through the various alarms. So there's alarm 1, alarm 2, alarm 3, alarm 4. Those are all daily one-time alarms. And then here's the snooze alarm, which is currently turned on. Pressing the top right button turns them on and off. Hourly signal. You can see the SIG signal indicator down here. It's currently turned on. It sounds at the top of the hour. That is not adjustable. You can only turn it on or off. So, okay, here's alarm 1. It's currently set for 0700, 7 a.m. Pressing and holding the top left adjust button. And now using the forward reverse on the right side, you can change your hours, set the alarm to whatever hour, and then, set the minutes, and it automatically turns on when you adjust it. And you can see alarm is turned on by the indicator down here, but not snooze. It's not a snooze alarm, just a daily one-time alarm. So, you know, as long as it's on, it'll sound every day, once every 24 hours at that same time. You can't have it go off on a specific day, specific month, and so on, specific year. So the top right button here, the reverse button, turns it on or off. And you've got 4 of those. They're all the same. And the snooze alarm is exactly the same, except that when it sounds, it'll sound every 5 minutes up to 7 times, unless you shut it off. So here we go with snooze alarm. Pressing any button will stop it, but you can see that the snooze indicator is flashing down here, and that means that in 5 minutes it's going to go off again. Now, because I pressed the start-stop button, I shortcutted to the stopwatch mode and automatically started the stopwatch, in addition to silencing the snooze alarm. So let's go back to timekeeping mode. There are a number of ways that you can shut this off, and one of them, which is kind of bizarre, it mentioned in the manual, if you go to world time and you have the city code set to your home city and you press the adjust button to turn daylight savings time on or off, it also cancels the snooze alarm. I guess that's kind of a weird way to go about it, but it's one of the possibilities. The other is that you can just press and hold the adjust button to go into the settings and then go out of it. That'll also cancel the snooze alarm. The snooze alarm is still turned on, so it'll go off the next day, but it's not going to go off again in 5 minutes. It'll go off 7 times, the maximum of 7 times every 5 minutes. Next up is the sunrise sunset mode. So pressing the bottom left button here 5 times. There it is, sunrise sunset mode. This is the current date, and this is the sunset time, as you can see. In real life, this little indicator is so tiny that it's very difficult to read. So this is the sunrise time, that's the sunset time. Up here it shows the sunrise time over here, and this little indicator is almost invisible. It's so tiny it's hiding behind the painted line on the dial there. That's the sunset time, and this is the current time. You can go backwards and forwards 1 day, and because it has a quick quick processor, it shows you the time fairly quickly. You can speed scroll back. If you want to go back a few years, it's going to take quite a while. There's no way to like manually set the month and day. If you leave the mode and come back to it, it will be restored to the current month and day and year. Now it shows these in accordance with the city code and latitude and longitude that you have set in the adjustments. So you have to go back to the home screen, timekeeping mode, press and hold the adjust, and see my city code is currently set for Denver. And if I press the adjust again, The latitude and longitude are currently set for approximately my home city, which is not Denver. It's Cheyenne, Wyoming. And this is what affects the sunrise and sunset times. So if the sunrise and sunset times don't look right or don't seem accurate, it's probably because you don't have the correct latitude and longitude set for your location in the world. Pressing the bottom left mode button here switches between, and you use the forward and reverse to adjust your latitude and longitude. You can speed scroll if you hold it down. Still takes quite a while. Yeah, changing your city code. You want to change your city code until you're, close to at least the same time zone, and that automatically loads latitude and longitude settings. So if I set it for Sydney, Australia, and then press adjust again, this latitude setting and this longitude setting, that's for the city of Sydney. And if you have custom latitude and longitude settings, those get vaporized as soon as you change your city code. But yeah, that's what controls the accuracy of your sunrise and sunset times. So in Sydney, Australia, apparently the sun is just rising. Here it's midday, but in Sydney, Australia, it's just early morning. Yeah, so that's the sunrise sunset mode. I'll have to go back in here and change my city code back to my home city. And since I don't actually live in Denver, I just used Denver in order to achieve the correct time zone. I'm going to have to reset these latitude and longitude values to Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is where I actually live. Moving on to data recall mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Presses of the mode button down here on the bottom left. Using the forward button, you can scroll through the records. The reason why there's all hyphens here is because I cleared and erased all of the records in the recall mode. That's maximum altitude, minimum altitude, total ascent, total descent. There are 4 types of records that you can store in the watch. You have 40 memory slots. You can store time memo, time records, time and date, altitude readings, compass readings, and barometer, thermometer. So I'll show you how to do each one of those. Go back to timekeeping mode here. Pressing and holding the upper right button. So I just saved a timestamp. And now I'll use the sensor mode button to go into the altimeter mode. Again, pressing and holding the upper right button. I just saved an altitude reading. Now I'll go to the compass mode. Press and hold the top right button. I just saved a compass reading. And now here's barometer, thermometer. Press and hold the top right button. So it's always the top right button that you use to save these readings. So now go back to the recall mode. And here is record number 1 is the date and time stamp that I saved. Up here it's actually showing how many records are saved in the memory. Pressing the forward and reverse button allows you to scroll through the records. So record number 2, this is the altitude reading, and it shows the date, and then it shows the time at which the record was saved. Forward button again. This is the next record. This is the compass reading, again showing the date and the time at which it was saved. And you can see kind of a visual indicator which record you're looking at in amongst the saved records up here. Pressing the forward button again, here's record number 4. This is barometer, barometric pressure, as well as the temperature. And it shows the date here and the time down here at which the record was saved. Pressing the forward button again. This is max altitude reading. You'll only get these saved in here if you go into the altimeter mode. There's the minimum altitude. Total ascent will only be saved if your elevation or altitude reading changes by 49 feet or more. Total descent. Alright, so if you want to erase a record, first of all, if you have 40 records saved in here and you save another one, it will delete the oldest record. But if you want to manually delete a record, you press and hold the adjust button until you hear a beep. And so that just deleted that time stamp or time date record. And I've still got the altitude, compass, and temperature barometer in here. You can select which record you want to delete. Here's record number 3. Press and hold the adjust until hold disappears, and that just deleted that record. The same thing with these maximum altitude, minimum altitude. You can reset those to 0. Same thing with cumulative ascent and descent. Now, if you want to erase everything, you press and hold the adjust button until it beeps once and hold disappears, and keep holding it until you hear 2 beeps, and now everything is cleared out of memory. That delete operation cannot be undone, so you want to make sure that you know what you're doing. You can't get any of that stuff back. So now there are no records in memory. That's the recall mode. The 7th and final mode is the received mode. RC up there, you probably saw at the top. It's showing the word received because it successfully received, it successfully synchronized with an atomic clock radio signal on October 16th at 1400 or 2 p.m. Now when you're in this mode, there's a couple things you can do. If you press and hold the bottom right button, you can initiate a manual receive. But I'm pressing and holding it and nothing is happening. The reason why is because I don't have a compatible time zone selected or city code. There's only about 25 city codes, well actually exactly 25 city codes that are compatible with radio controlled timekeeping. So if I go back to the timekeeping mode, press and hold the adjust button, you can see that my city code is set for Pago Pago. This is not well, maybe it is in range of an atomic clock time signal, but Casio doesn't consider it to be. So the multiband 6 radio controlled timekeeping is disabled under this city code. Honolulu, that does work. That's part of the USA. Anchorage, Vancouver. Now there's my home city code that I use for the mountain time zone in the USA, Denver. So now I'll go back to the received mode. And now when I try to initiate, using the bottom right button, try to initiate a manual reception, it'll actually do it. So if your atomic clock radio synchronization isn't working, this is one way to, you want to bear in mind that it only works under certain city codes. After several seconds, it'll show me the signal strength. Okay, now it's at level 1. That should improve because I only live about 60 miles away from the radio station here in the USA, Fort Collins, Colorado. There it goes up to level 2. Level 3, that's the strongest signal. It's kind of fluctuating between the two. It'll basically stay, it'll keep attempting for quite a while, I guess up to 20 minutes. If it fails, I'm going to cancel out of it. Well, it's showing me the last successful synchronization. If I had let it go and it had failed, I would have seen ERR up here, and it would show like a hyphen and hyphens all the way across down here. Because I canceled out of it, I have no received indicator over here. The other thing you can do in this mode, if you press and hold the adjust button, you can turn the automatic synchronization on or off using the forward button. If it's off, of course, you've just got an ordinary quartz watch with plus or minus 15 seconds per month accuracy. If it's on, then it will attempt to tune into the atomic clock radio signal during the nighttime hours between midnight and 6 a.m. In some places in the world, those times might be a little different. It might be from 1 a.m. until 6 or something, or from 12 to 5. But anyway, as soon as it succeeds, it stops. It makes no further attempts. So for me here in the USA, it usually makes an attempt at midnight. It usually succeeds at midnight within a few minutes, and then, it makes no further attempts after that until the next midnight, 24 hours later comes around. So, yeah, that's the atomic clock radio signal automatic time synchronization functionality on the received mode. Now, of course, there are 3 more modes, the sensor modes, that I haven't covered yet. I'm going to have to put those in a separate video because this video is so long already. So look for those in a separate YouTube video.